This is Jane Johnson, the founder of One United Body and father in the house. The house is aimed at many mandates, but particularly around what is the journey and how to do the journey and the stumbling blocks related to that. We've been doing this journey a long time and have a lot of experience and are quite well known now. Dialogue group, we've got a number of questions to address, but always open to any new questions that you bring. If anybody has any questions, let me know, maybe in the chat. And I'm going to address the first one that we had, which was, what is the difference between a mandate and a governmental act? And it's so funny because this term mandate really seems to confuse a lot, maybe because it's a very unused word and we perhaps need a better word. I mean, we used to use things like discerning God's will or instructions from God, or it's nothing more than that, really. Very specific. A blueprint is like a huge calling, you might say. A mandate is very much either for the day, for the season, more usually for the day or a short period of time. And we probably discern a lot more mandates than we realize. We probably hear, even if you hear something in the news and your spirit rises to that, that can be a mandate. You know, you don't have to hear the direct words of God. I often find that righteous anger is a great indicator of a mandate. And when we've discerned that, I think it's really important in these days of taking responsibility now that we address that. And how we address that is a governmental act. And a governmental act is the thing you do in heaven. So I hope you can see that it's quite different. And we talked a lot about the types of governmental acts last time. So if you're confused on the types of governmental acts and which act to do where, for which mandate, look back at that previous dialogue group on the Facebook Lives. Now, I want to cover today a recap on certain realms, and then the importance of cities over the realms, and which city to govern in for which particular topic or mandate or blueprint that you've received. Realms, again, can be very, what's the word? Overwhelming for people, tend to shut off because it sounds a bit airy-fairy. But the fact is, we are in different realms, even whether we know it or not. And we always have been. We've always been in the eternal realm as a spirit being. And some of these other realms are a choice of how we live our lives and where we're going to place our spirit, soul, and eventually our body. Most of us think we're still just ascending with our spirit and soul. Now, let's start off with the everlasting realm. One that's not really talked about a lot, but is in the what was. And if you look at the Old Testament, there's a lot of talk about everlasting, and there's also the fact that a lot of translation of eternal life was actually really meant to be everlasting life, because we always have eternal life. No matter what we do, our spirit always lives in eternity. This was the confusion, you know, that was never up for losing. It was more about, are we going to maintain this amazing life, living out of the tree of life, the river of life? And that goes on even when you die. So, and I do personally believe it affects the level of heaven that you, when you die, which access you get to until the full resurrection of everybody and the bodies. I don't believe that everyone just goes to the same level of heaven no matter what their great works are. I think that wouldn't be just. There is a level of intimacy, there's a level of responsibility that God is not going to give to you going into all sorts of councils, courtrooms, to do whatever. Now, everlasting realm is a lot about judgment. Think about it. If you go and be a judge, just set your spirit, oh, here I am in the everlasting realm. Now, there's some lack of clarity of what the city is over the everlasting realm, whether it's the city of God or the city, what you might call, the city of God might be called the city of tabernacles, tabernacling with all members of the Godhead. I'm not 100% sure that that city is definitely over the everlasting realm. Something that you might want to ask, feedback if you get any answers on that. But city is really about being in headship, and you're then taking authority over those realms and working either with God, with Yeshua, and bringing his fullest blueprint to that. Sometimes you don't have to know all the details. You don't even know any details. You could just be releasing from the city into that realm. I almost see it like there's a cube on top of you might call it a pillar, a square pillar, and you're releasing out of that cube all the contents of that cube into the pillar, which is the realm. Almost like a bin lid, I see, you kind of like drop the sort of floor and the contents just drop. Sometimes I just do that when I don't know any more details, when it's a quick accelerated act that I sense needs doing. I just saw today, a massive way, accelerated way of doing judgment would just to be release from the city of God, everything that needs to be judged into the everlasting realm. And then it would all come up in all particular specific details to individuals. I thought, wow, that's really a way of accelerating the earth that's holding it back. Now, another realm I want to go over is the creation realm, with the city over that being New Jerusalem. Now, there's a confusion between the creation realm, which I see is the now, the today, what's on the earth, and what we physically meet with, as opposed to the other realm, which is the new day. The new day is day 8. And it's when we live more in what was meant to be and what is now. So you could almost say everything that New Jerusalem describes can start to be our reality in the new day. It's a very exciting realm. One, it's not quite in the future yet, it's still in that present, but you're choosing not to accept sickness, death, any of those kind of lower levels that are in the creation realm. Now, New Jerusalem is described in detail in the book of Revelation at the end. That's why we see the book of Revelation is not irrelevant. Certainly for those verses, absolutely critical. I encourage you to go in New Jerusalem if you haven't, and you will accelerate yourself massively if you do that. You'll see more about what the new day is. And often we come through a certain gate related to our own tribe. So you could even ask, what is your tribe name? The 12 tribes of Israel. Now, Jerusalem is described as descending. So you could even see that when you're in New Jerusalem as a city, you just descend over that realm of creation. I want to make some notes here, actually, because these can be good to memorize, but can easily forget. And you're influencing creation. I'll just stop there. Sorry for any questions, dialogue, feedback.
So when you're doing something in the new day, it's in the now in a way. So like you actually see the benefits manifest like pretty immediately, or
Well, that's the idea with the new days, that it's for something that you discern God wants to do pretty quickly. This isn't, 2,000 years down the track, God's going to do this, or even 100 years down the track. This is, and so think like that. Is God saying this is going to be an immediate thing? And the city over that is Zion, by the way.
I was wondering, I've heard some people saying that you could just step into this new dimension because of the radiation that's coming to the earth. Are they really trying to refer to like the new day? You could just step into it and live in that?
I think they probably are. Yeah. Yeah. This is why I think it's helpful to know, to ask yourself, what realm am I in when I'm doing something? Because you really are then choosing to live out of the way that realm operates. And yes, different groupings have different names for it. Some use the term eternal now as well, which is an interesting term, which could mean all sorts of things. I won't get into the eternal now, but that I know that's a common phrase. Anything else?
I was just thinking through if there's a difference between how we describe like, okay, if we fix something in the everlasting realm, like it's like suppose we judge like some sin and we some bad trade we made in the past. So I mean, we get the effects of like now that's gone, right? But or you could like redeem the time, for instance. Do we get the benefits now? Is this any different than like just the new day also get the benefits kind of now, basically? Is there any should we think about these differently, or like if we're describing this to people, or
Differently, you mean to creation a new day, or?
Well, anything done in the past, it's my understanding of it is like it's not like we changed the past, but we judged some past wrong trade and we changed things, right? So from this moment on, we it's as if we'd done something different in the past, right? So we see the benefits.
No, it doesn't change the past, but I think what it's like to me is a concertina. It's moving everything, squeezing it all into creation and the new day. And so effectively you're accelerating what's in creation and what's in new day now, and pushing everything into that future timeline.
Okay, I was still talking about the everlasting realm right there, but
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
okay,
From
okay.
everlasting. Yeah. Your judgment in there, it gets transferred into creation and the new day, and then makes the future timeline different. And I think it's very exciting that that we have that ability to change the future timeline, and not to accept just that, whatever, well, God's just totally in charge, or he's just got something set and man doesn't have any power over that. We do see clearly how much power man has. And the same from the is to come. That's another concertina I see, like squeezing. So when we create something in the is to come, it then gets pushed into the new day and into creation, and begins to influence the future. On a
And that word you said Constantina, or
yeah, you know, like what do you call accordion?
oh, an accordion. Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay. So when when a judgment's made, like the court rendered a verdict in the everlasting realm, and that'll basically that's down in the timeline now, and it'll come along pretty soon. It's okay.
Mm. Mm.
But I think she said that it goes into the new day, and from
Yeah, yeah.
there it goes into creation
Let's
because
say
it's
the judgment
somewhat.
was to restore something that was lost, right? So okay, so
Mm.
now we should expect that coming in through the new day or wherever it ended up somewhere pretty
Mm.
soon in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily pretty soon, you know, it might be 5-10 years down the track, but or it could be, you know, a week or two. I mean, we could even ask God about that as well. But the is to come is made up of numerous realms called infinity. I won't go into any others because I don't want to give you too many, but just think on the infinity with David's city over the infinity realm. And we saw David was very much about creating the future in his day, releasing frequencies with his instruments that that allowed him to live out the future, but also we can do that. We can live out the future rather than we don't have to live in the present. We don't have to live in present emotions. We certainly don't want to live in the past emotions, past regrets. So think of it, a lot of self-help gurus, funny enough, are talking the same language, they use different words. So we're on the same page, that we live out of the future and we live in as if those things have already happened, the same emotions. If you practice it, it can be a bit tricky at the start, but eventually you get that real joy and amazement. What it's like. And I have seen the reality of when you live out of the future, it does materialize. I had one thing where it materialized really, really quickly. It was just a small thing, but it materialized in a way I didn't expect. And some bigger things, I've really been feeling that emotion of joy, liberty, freedom. If as if those things are actually in my life. And I have seen I've got some things happening now that I never thought were going to happen, but I think a lot of it was living out of that future emotion. So any questions on the years to come?
So suppose you had like a person with like real basic Christian understanding, and if they were asking you about that topic right now, they might ask like, how's that different from faith? I mean, I see, like, first of all, you got to see what's in your future, but I mean, that's how would you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to see a blueprint. But we know an awful lot of what God's, you know, wants what the original blueprint was like. We know a lot. If you think practically, you know, what new technology does God want? What way does he want to restore quickly? What way is he going to restore health? All these things. I think a lot of us would actually know a lot of what God ideally would want. Again, you don't have to be specific. You know, you might just be releasing health as a huge, huge blueprint, or creating perfect health, a perfect son, you know, a mature son. Things like that we know are on God's God's blueprint.
Yeah, you got to know what to believe in. You got to see it, and if you're able to see a bit, kind of understand God's blueprint to some degree at that point. Okay, I think that's a good summary.
I found that quite easy. Yeah, I mean,
Well, yeah, but
immortality, you can do a lot on immortality. There's a lot. Actually, I've got, this might lead nicely to, I want to talk next about the difference between what mandates you do in what cities. This releases a lot of mandates that I think will be helpful for you to see. And if you want to recap, this is on the website, Agendas in Cities. Now, if we look at New Jerusalem, we see a lot of that is around life. Anything to do with the life, you can go into New Jerusalem, perfection, flawless health, not dying. It talks about God's glory lighting up the sky. Anything where you perceive God's glory needs to be greater on the earth is a New Jerusalem mandate. Zion is very much linked to priesthood. Think of Zion as high priesthood and also sons. So resurrection of the dead, we're seeing, is a big mandate in Zion. And this thing I do a lot is birthing sons as a father. Or if you're a father of fathers, you can birth fathers. That we see can actually be either in the city of Jacob or in Zion. And like we said, manifesting things quickly into the new day, day 8. City of Jacob. Now, I think Jacob had the 12 sons. So we can be calling people into tribes, and tribes often relate to houses as well. So that's a massive agenda, getting people moving from church and ecclesia into a house or a tribe. The city of Jacob is huge for that, and has a huge place in a different realm. That's the realm of Zion, by the way. So Zion is an age, a city, and a realm. So the city of God can be releasing the rivers of everlasting life for the soul. There's a lot of soul issues with everlasting realm. That's a big mandate I've dealt with it a lot as well. And if you call to a lot of soul issues for mankind, you can be doing that in the city of God. The city of David, think again of high priesthood. And he was manifesting future timelines. So I find that easier to recall that as future timelines. Before I carry on, any questions, dialogue, comments?
Well, what would be an example of a future timeline? I mean, like,
we'll say like the sons to come to perfection. The manifest sons, that would be a future timeline that we're not currently seeing many living by. That would be an example.
okay.
Yeah, or majority of the earth has perfect health. something
So
like
that
that.
would be like a perfect timeline.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, remember, perfect is just mature for man. So not everything is finished or completely perfect. But yeah, some sort of on the way to that.
If you're looking for like a smaller past example, I think in Daniel, when they're supposed to come out captivity, is supposed to happen at a certain date, right? But if he hadn't prayed about that, and I suppose some stuff happened in the courts behind the scenes, but if he hadn't petitioned for it, they would have been on a timeline that wasn't quite God's will, where they're staying in Babylon even longer,
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think how many things, if we hadn't petitioned God, would have gone on down on a certain timeline, and how many things have gone down a different timeline. This is where, God's calling us to immense responsibility in current days. It's not just about intimacy. We're called to great works versus dead works. So if you hear people saying it's all about being, not doing, I think they're talking about dead works. It's impossible to be. I really struggle with this thing. Every time you're being, you're doing in some sense. Even if you're being just, in relationship with God, that's doing to me. So I think it just, those phrases make people feel that it's just about meditating with God or intimacy, and that's a bit dangerous. We know the scriptures will do greater works than Yeshua. We really are called to great works. So if you don't know what a great work is, begin to ask. It's very, very exciting. I mean, it's just such a privilege and such a honor to do great works. Jesus
So
isn't
to be able,
threatened by that.
but to be able to do great works, wouldn't you have to have a relationship, an intimate relationship?
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Mm.
so
Intimacy.
even if you are building intimacy with the headship, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, I mean, I almost see it as two different roads that you still need to do, the works too, and the relationship, because they entwine with each other.
Yes, everything's two sets of pillars. Absolutely. Intimacy and responsibility is key. Yeah. So interesting in scriptures, we've actually got the city of Salem. Some of you are more advanced might wish to begin to explore that, linked with peace, and also linked with reversing the serpent's seed line, and begin to ask what that is. And we also have the term holy habitation. This came to us by another father, which could mean different things to different people. Could be being heirs of righteousness. It could be being set apart, able to stand before God on his throne, not just in the garden. And entangling with the Father and Yeshua on earth, not just in heaven. A lot of these things. But there's a bit of a journey with that holiness agenda, seeing what that's about, a lot about just understanding the glory and majesty of God. And a lot about the holy, the what was. Not something I've feel a real expert on with that. But I have done an extensive journey on holiness, and have been before certain thrones that are mind-blowing in understanding that. And yeah, I think holy habitation may be more of a term to represent a few cities in the what was. Any other questions? If you had to choose one, I would say start with New Jerusalem. Well, first of all, ask, are you called to headship? Some are not, and don't push yourself if you're not or feel guilty. But if you do really sense you're getting massive global mandates, the chances are you're being called to headship. Could be in the fathering sense, could be in any sense. Begin with New Jerusalem. Feel if you can feel that descending New Jerusalem. I mean, I used to feel it an awful lot in the early days. It is an accelerated way of doing a lot of mandates. It's almost like the weight of this massive, massive cube. Imagine it, a huge, huge cube coming down and squeezing out evil, or the old blueprint, and bringing the new. It's very, very exciting. It's simple. It's not about producing a lot of complex court cases. It's a much higher age. Even beyond the golden age, it's really getting up into some of the higher ages that we haven't talked about a lot. And Zion is a complex one. Perhaps would avoid that. The next one I would do is the city of Jacob, because we need more sons produced, and we need more people in houses. Big one for the house of God, universal house of God.
So way
Karen?
on the far right of the diagram, what is New Earth for? Like what happens there?
Oh yeah, good question. Well, New Earth really is the slow manifestation of what is currently in the creation realm. And as forerunners, we can live in the New Earth. Often ahead, we're often living not under the consequences that many are. So you could say we're in the New Earth. I would say the New Earth is beginning and has been beginning maybe for 10 years. It's like a big gate I see that opens very, very slowly. So it doesn't start on one particular day. And yeah, it's just very exciting to think that you can descend onto New Earth and change the Earth. You begin living out of it differently now, and eventually it manifests for everyone, because we want it to manifest for everyone. We don't want this to be a selfish journey of, oh, what's my life? So anything we do for ourselves, do for others. I think there's always mandates that God wants to give. Even if you don't hear one, all I say to people is just release any understanding that heaven wants to release. That's what I do every day as a gate. And at least you're doing something, as opposed to spending a lot of time investigating things and not doing that basic that's going to benefit millions. And maybe bring the New Earth, as that accordion, it's going to bring and squeeze that New Earth to overlap with the creation realm. And we're going to see huge change. I think we're in this era of immense change. It's because a lot of sons have taken that authority, and it's very exciting what is possible. I mean, I don't want to miss out seeing immense change in my generation. I want it all. I want it now. I really desire to see that massive change. It's been so long where we haven't seen that huge change.
Do you think that might be do you think we haven't seen the new change because we haven't been in the different realms working from that area?
Yeah, I think it's part of that. I think we've been warring too much. and we haven't gone and understood about going into the future, into the original blueprint. We've been happy for, you know, a few healings, a few souls saved, revival. I see revival as a lower blueprint. I think now when it's moved to a higher term, which is the sons coming to maturity. We can have less numbers with more sons, with more authority, more mature, will make more difference than millions of new believers coming to Christ. Not to say that that's not, you know, not an agenda for some people and it's not important. But we're looking at all the blueprints here, not just the evangelistic blueprint. Any questions on any other different topics, or? I was seeing a question which I'll come back to you probably another time, is what's the difference between a judge and a priest, and a king versus a priest? I can give you the priest versus king answer. A king, I see a lot of time, is ruling and reinforcing judgments or blueprints, and a priest is bringing heaven to earth and dealing with sin and death. King could be dealing with all sorts of things, from business to health to anything. A priest is a lot more. If you think priest, sin and death, it's a good way of remembering some of the major mandates of a priest. If you think king, more ruling with the scepter, the priest is in the temple, the king is on his mountain. You begin to see some of the difference. So ask yourself, when you do something, am I doing this as a king or a priest? You know, this is a learning exercise. Let's not just be doing things willy-nilly where we don't know where we are, who we are, what authority, what name. Begin to grow in those understandings, and these are the keystones of the age of Melchizedek. And you'll be growing, and you'll be able to father other people in that then more specifically. The judge versus priest is a lot more tricky. It's a lot similar, dealing with sin. I'll come back to you on that one. Might even be the next topic. Yeah. I could also do the identity as the Son of God beyond the age of Melchizedek. That's a big one, but we want to encourage you to understand that we want to go beyond being a son to a son of God. Or even dealing with emotions. That can be a big one. And so there's some topics you might want to choose. Or let me know anything you can post in any of the chats that we have, any questions.
Here's one question, since we touched on it earlier, but so I believe there's a succinct or a short way to explain headship where like a 5-year-old can understand it, but I'd have to like take like 3 whole sentences to explain it, because like I know like you're in charge of like raising up other people, and you got a responsibility for doing that, and you're giving things out, and you're like, as a father of fathers, you raise fathers, right? And you're responsible over a certain city or realm, and you're giving that out, pouring that out, calling them in, and so like I can describe headship, but there should be like a short way to explain it, right?
I mean, I think what you said is a short way of describing
Yeah,
it.
but we don't like understand it fully till we can like explain to a 5-year-old, right?
I mean, I think what you'd said most adults would understand. I don't think you fully understand it until you've done it.
Mhm.
And I was doing a lot of stuff and actually didn't realize it was called headship until Bill actually gave me that word. I was just doing it naturally. And then he gave me another term, Godheadship, and I hadn't even seen the difference there, but I had moved into that. So some of you are probably in headship and still don't realize, but ask. Some of the houses may use a different word. In fact, I've not heard that word headship used in other houses. So that's interesting. I mean, we use it because Yeshua was viewed as the head over the body. It may be just other houses haven't got to that revelation yet, and it's our specific blueprint. But yeah, just see. I mean, if anybody gave me examples of the types of mandates they were doing or the types of acts, I could probably tell you, oh yeah, look, that's headship. That isn't. No, that's. If you're presenting to a lot of courts, that's probably not headship. Yeah, but if you're beginning to sit on courts, councils, if you've ever been given any title, any specific coronation, like a chancellor, that's definitely headship. All these different areas
Yeah,
headship. If
training,
you
fathering,
founded anything, yeah, you're definitely in headship.
found it.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll finish it there, guys. I really appreciate your participation and questions, and bless all those that are listening. You feel free to share this recording and invite people to our Heavenly Realms Facebook page or our Telegram chat. We like to get people into community, get your feedback. Lots of free pages. Check out that page we've talked about today, which is the city agendas. Let me get the exact title for you. Agendas of Cities in Headship on the website. And if something comes up as passworded, it's a very small fee for going on Patreon to get the password. And begin to ask about the cities and the realms, and really challenge you with that. I feel Father, here's an oracle word here. I really feel Father saying, I really want you to explore these realms, to be conscious of where you are, and drawing others into cities and into headship that haven't been already or haven't recognized. Now is the time to become that mature son. I really feel that. No delaying, no saying I'm a newbie, no excuses. You can do this. I really hear Father saying you can do this. It doesn't have to be the traditional form of headship you saw in the church wineskin. Apostles look very differently from what they did in the old wineskin, and maybe a lot more approachable than, and you may even be an apostle. You may be a prophet, an oracle, and you can operate way more in these wineskins than you could in church. So just because you couldn't operate in church doesn't mean you can't operate in this wineskin. I personally have found it so much easier to operate in this wineskin. I'd never have thought of calling myself an apostle years and years ago, but yet I sensed I was always into the big picture and found it easy. But now I see that, you know, I have been an apostle for quite a while now.
Okay, and I need clarification on one point. This is kind of changing topics back, but I just wanted to make sure I understood what you meant by frequencies versus releasing frequencies versus like cities, because okay, there's just releasing frequency when you don't know what you're doing. Then there's like actually knowing you're in a realm and like say you're in the everlasting realm, like doing some court thingy. And then at the very start, you'd mentioned like some recently you figured out you could just like see the whole city as the cube and just dump it down into the pillar you were saying. When you're talking about being in cities instead of frequencies, is it like, are you dealing with the entire realm just like as the city, or just like, is it an act within the realm is what you're meaning there, or?
Well, the main thing I see with the frequencies is being in the city of David. And I see it's almost like dancing with David. And you might hear like a drum beat. And that's how I release the frequency into the infinity realm. The others I don't really see as releasing frequencies. They're more specific. You could call it a frequency if you want, but I see it as more of a specific act or mandate, like this dumping or this descending New Jerusalem. Yeah, I don't know if
But
that
even in
answers.
those actions, you would be releasing a frequency or vibration. It's something
Yeah.
that you can
Yeah.
feel or see or
Okay.
you know, because in everyday life, it's like it's an unseen thing, but it still exists.
Yeah, I mean everything's frequency, isn't it? So
Yeah,
yes.
my conclusion here is just know where you're at and what you're doing. So
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do, if you haven't been in the city of David, I think you'll really get frequencies more. If you're struggling with what a frequency is and how to release that, particularly try and dance with David, see if you can hear that, or sit on his throne next to him. And yeah, it's very exciting.
Wow.
Okay, guys, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you very
Okay, yeah,
much.
thank you.
Bless you all.